Yo, what is up everyone? This is Arcando. Welcome to a brand new tutorial today. In this video, I'm going to explain how ThatBehavior and I made one of our more recent releases called When the Party's Over, which is a cover of Billie Eilish, her release called When the Party's Over. Our cover is together with Lunis, and we released the song on Future Generation. And after the release, we received actually a lot of requests from you guys asking if we could do a walkthrough or like a tutorial on this track. And ThatBehavior never really did a tutorial before, so I was like, you know what, let's just do one together. So they are going to explain the drop, and I'm going to explain my part, which is the break and the build up and the vocal processing, stuff like that, and the vocal chop and the drop. So yeah, without further ado, let's get right into it. So this is the project, as you can see. So we're going to start off with the break first, and then we're just going to go from there.
Don't you know I'm no good for you? I've learned to lose. You can't afford to tear my shirt to stop you bleeding, but nothing ever stops you leaving.
All right, just till there. So we're gonna start off with that first part that I just played. It's nothing too like crazy. It's pretty simple actually. It's very atmospheric. So we're just gonna start off with this first bass sound, which sounds like this. It's almost acting as like a drone sound. It only plays one note, and then when the beat kicks in, it does like a different progression, as you can hear. And this gives it more movement, gives it more like, brings the whole break more alive. The break bass is literally the same Reese bass as for all my other songs. I'm not going to go in depth about it again. Yeah, it's just a simple Reese bass. The only difference is I have no effects on this one. I just wanted to keep it like really, really basic. On this, I am automating this EQ. So when the beat kicks in, I'm putting all the lower frequencies back into the track. As you can see, it really pulls you back into it. So yeah, that's just an automation that I did there. One up fatter, there is a compressor and there's a limiter to really like compress and squash the bass a lot. So it's like nice and tight in the mix. So then we move on to the effects groups, and they sound like this. Nothing too crazy, super simple. What's happening here is there are two ambience sort of stems. The first one is an ambience loop from Kashmir, and the second one is called Raw Dark City Streets. I think this is just a sample on Splice. There's nothing on it. The EQ is doing nothing. So it gives off all this like nicer lower frequencies to fill up the spectrum, basically. There's this Kashmir ambience pretty strike sound. And then we have these ad-libs. Which really fill up the higher frequencies actually a lot. And then we have this percussion remake. I don't know how I made this one, but it sounds like this. I think I found it like online. Someone did like a remake or something. And then all I did is I added a bit crusher to make it a bit more like robotic. And I added a phaser, so it's moving a lot more. So yeah, that was the effects for this first part. And then we add this like ARP loop from ThatBehavior from the drop. Super simple, it's just the drop chords in the second drop, but filtered. And then we added this Graves Atmosphere Voices in My Head sound, which is giving a lot more tonality to when the break hits. That being said, we go to the Lunis Lunis vocal group, and Lunis sounds like this.
Don't you know I'm no good for you? I've learned to lose. You can't afford to.
First of all, big props to Lunis because she absolutely killed it. She's one of the more talented vocalists that I've ever worked with. And on top of it, this song is extremely difficult to sing because the song has been written in 2 octaves. So the fact that she could pull this off is incredible. I really liked already the way she processed it. It was already like compressed and tuned. I just wanted to make it a bit more like saturated, just like the original vocal. So we're gonna start off with an EQ, just cutting off all the low end. I added a Puke Child, which is from Waves, the 670 plugin, which is adding some saturation and compression. I added an EQ, so I'm boosting the mid-lower frequencies and the higher frequencies a little bit. And then I added the Sheps 73, which is also from Waves, and this adds a really nice sort of analog distortion to the vocal, which makes the vocal a lot more aggressive almost. And then I added this vocal ride to control the dynamic range of the vocal, and I added 2 buses. One is using the Valhalla Vintage Verb, and it's being controlled by an Pro Q3, just cutting off the high end and the low end. And then the bus 2 has a Echo Boy Jr. delay, which is being controlled by another EQ and a sidechain compressor. So yeah, that's basically the vocal for this part. And then for the part when the drums come in, let me just play it again.
To tore my shirt to stop you bleeding, but nothing ever stops you leaving.
All right, so we're gonna start off with the percussions or the drums, and they sound like this. Okay, so super simple. There's just this drop kick from ThatBehavior that I filtered, and I made like a new rhythm with it. Nothing too crazy there. I added this ring roll effect, I believe, or I don't know what that is. Just like a really fast hi-hat. And then I added 2 snares. One is called the LS Dream Filtered Snare Verb snare, which sound like this. It's a more like reverbed long snare, which is really cool, but I was missing some punch and attack to the snare, so I added this one. The snare is not like too like sharp, but it gives like the perfect punch to the Santa Monica snare, so like the reverbed snare. And then we end this beat with a simple snap. So those are the drums, nothing too crazy there. The bass I already explained. For the effects, just adding like some downlifters like this, and some white noise uplifters. And then for the synths, I added again the Graves Atmosphere Voices in My Head sample, and I added this one. Which is a really cool, like, sort of vocal pad. I really thought it was a cool sound because it really fits the atmosphere a lot. So this is a library in Nexus in the voice expansion, and it's called VO Whistling Monks. And without any effects, it sounds like this. Like pretty cool, but it had like way too much low end. So I first added a tremolo effect, so it becomes a bit more like moving from left to right. So it almost acts as a panner. I added an EQ, so I'm cutting off all the lower end in the sound. I added a compressor, a single EQ, so it's being filtered a little bit, and I added an S1 imager, so it's being more mono in the mix. That's basically it, nothing too crazy. Also here, this part is actually really interesting, this next part, because this is where I went ahead and did a lot of cool stuff to support Lunis, her vocal. So we're going to start off with this harmony right here.
My shy to stop you pleading, but nothing ever stops you leaving.
Which is also being supported by this lower sound right here.
Stops you leaving.
So this is actually not something that Lunis sang originally, and I was definitely missing like a lower harmony, and I was just like, okay, let me just make it myself because she sent me the dry vocals. So I went into flex pitch. As you can see, I recreated the original melody from When the Party's Over. So you can basically use Melodyne as well. So I added an EQ, just cutting off a little bit of the high end. I added a bit crusher, so it has like that robotic sound, a little bit of like the scary sound to it, and a Pro MB, so I'm compressing the high end a lot. So the original vocal from Lunis, like the lead vocal, is still in front of the mix. And then I brought again the reverb bus, so everything is in the same like room, basically. Everything is in the same group. Then I added these two ad-libs, or these like two hums. So the first one sounds like this. It's literally a compressor decapitator, which is giving a lot more like distortion and volume to the ad-lib. And then we have an EQ. It's cutting off all the low end. Because after distortion, it's going to add like a lot of lower harmonics that you basically don't want. It's being panned a little bit to the right, and the second ad-lib or the second hum is being panned more to the left. So you create like a really nice stereo field in the background. And the second ad-lib sounds like this. And then all together, it sounds like this.
To tore my shirt to stop you pleading, but nothing ever stops you leaving.
Sounds so tight. Like, I'm actually really proud of this result because like this is such a hard track to or like a difficult track to remake. Okay, so now we're gonna play the build-up, which sounds like this.
Quiet when I'm coming home and I'm on my own. Quiet when I'm coming home and I'm on my own. I could lie, say I like it like that, like it like that, like it like that. I could lie, say I like it like that, like it like that, like it like that.
Okay, so for the build-up, also really simple. We're gonna start off with the percussions. The build-up drums were, I think, also from ThatBehavior, which I just bounced all together, and I added this like cashmere reverb pluck, and altogether it sounds like this. Really cool, builds up like really nicely to the drop. I added this bass progression in the build-up. It's like super filtered, and then during like the build-up, it opens up. Really simple. It's a Reese bass that I got from Audio Seed. I named it Billie Remix Reese bass, but I don't know where I got it or like what pack it is from, but it's from Audio Seed. It's just a really simple Reese bass, nothing too crazy. There's an EQ, but it's doing nothing. There's an OTT. There is a overdrive that is giving more like crunch to the bass, more power. There is a filter. So during the build-up, it's being, as I said, like filtered open to bring in more energy. There's a sidechain compressor, and there is another EQ that I think, yeah, so this is actually removing the lower frequencies during the build-up. So when the drop hits, all the lower frequencies are brought back into the track. And this is, I think, what gives the drop a lot more power as well, to filter out the lower frequencies. So then for the effects, we have some simple cashmere exhaust stuff. And we have the same elements as from the break coming back in. So the only two new elements that are coming back in is, of course, this riser, which is from Kashmir. Nothing too crazy. And then we have this vocal pad. And then for the synths, we have this. The main ARP is this one, which is from Virtual Riot, actually. And there's a really simple EQ, just cutting off the low end and removing a lot of this like mid frequencies to give it more space for like the vocal and stuff like that. Yeah, it's a really awesome plug. I use it a lot, actually. I also use this one in End of the World, and I use it in more like upcoming releases. Then we have this one, which is the ARP from the break being like filtered open during the build-up. And then the grave sample that's being brought in again. And then we have the vocal group. This is this new part that comes in. And these are samples that I really wanted to bring in because these are what make When the Party's Over so unique. So the sounds that I added sound like this. Okay, so the first sound is this breath female sample, which sound like this. And then without any effects, it sounds like this. So I kind of stretched it for like an artistic purpose, basically. I added a distortion, so it becomes more like crunchy. I added an EQ, which is cutting off all the lower end of the breath. I added a multi-bit compressor, a tremolo bit crusher, Valhalla, room and compressor, and all together. So for the build-up, we have the same lead vocal from Lunis, and I'm bringing in these harmonies that Lunis sang for the track.
I could lie, say I like it like that, like it like that, like it like that. I could lie, say I like it like that.
Again, EQ, again a bit crusher, and again a Pro MB to compress these harmonies a lot. And then I added this. I could lie, say I like it like that, like it like that, like it like that. This is so key for the vocal. I know that Billie Eilish does a lot of like whisper takes, and I was like, the build-up is almost there, but it misses yet again at like that scary sort of layer. And this whisper is actually me. So I went ahead and I whispered in the mic, and this is how it sounds like without any effects. I could lie, say I like it like that, like it like that, like it like that. I could like, say I like it. Oh my god. But that's like, I did it on purpose because that gives it like that nice touch to the Lunis her vocal, and you really want to bring this back in the mix. You don't want to put this up front because that's going to ruin the whole vibe. So first thing I did is I squashed this whisper take a lot. I added an EQ to cut off all the low end up to like 1k hertz. I added an OTT, Pro MB, so I'm making the take more punchy actually. I'm reducing the sustain of the take, and I'm adding more attack. And I'm using an S1 imager to make it more wider in the mix. By the way, this S1 imager to use it as like a widener too is actually not that great, but yeah, whatever. I added this.
I could lie, say I like it like that, like it like that, like it like that.
And then altogether it sounds like this.
I could lie, say I like it like that, like it like that, like it like that. I could lie, say I like it like that, like it like that, like it like that.
And you hear that whisper, even though you can barely hear it, it adds so much flavor and so much texture to the vocal. which was really mandatory. All right, that was the build up, and now we can go on to the second part of the break. And then we go from the first build up to the second break, which sounds like this.
Don't you know too much already? I'll only hurt you if you let me. Call me friend, but keep me closer. And I'll call you when the party's over.
All right, so also again, really simple stuff. I think the main newer elements are actually these like acoustic piano instruments. So this is the first one. And I actually literally replicated the original like play basically. So I downloaded the MP3 and I literally went second by second to see what exactly they played and at which time they played it. The piano I use for this one is called the Giant. I used RC20. I added a little bit of noise, some distortion, and a magnetic effect, so it becomes a bit more processed. I added an EQ, so I'm cutting off a little bit of the low end and adding a bit of the high end. I added a brighter plugin. I added some reverb, and I added an EQ, or like a single band EQ, so I'm filtering the sound a little bit in the high end. Then I'm layering that with these other two samples. One is, I think, like an acoustic version of the track, and the other one is a bounced serum. I don't know. Like, oh wait, let me see how this. I don't even know how this sounds like. Wait, let me turn up the gain. Damn. So yeah. Anyways, a lot of like different layers, a lot of different sounds, and then there is this one higher note, which sounds like this. So those are the pianos. The effects, what I added was I added some vinyl crackle to give it like that realistic texture to the piano, as if it was real life recorded, basically. And I added this vocal effect. This is like something I do a lot of my tracks, if not in every track. So how I did this was I reversed Lunis her vocal without any effects. It sounds like this. And I love that first part, and I was like, so you basically get back home, you know. And I took other parts and I just repitched it. As you can see, this is the original part that has not been pitched. And then this one is another take from another part that has been pitched with -5. And this one has been pitched with -7. So now you literally are back with the melody that I originally had in mind. You know what I mean? And then I added a little altar boy, which is being pitched all the way up with 12 semitones, a little bit of drive. There's an EQ, 2 reverbs. One has a really short decay, so that's just to reverb the sound itself. And one is acting as like just a normal reverb, basically, so a longer decay. And then I added an EQ, so it's being filtered, and another EQ that is filtering, again, the higher frequencies. So those were the effects for that part. Let me see. There's like this reverse vocal from Lunis.
Don't you know?
And then we have some percussions up here.
Don't you?
I think ThatBehavior made these actually, together with this beat. This like new rhythm that comes in. Then for the effects, a lot of the stuff are already the same as what it was for the first break. The only things I added were some new vocal samples, some new harmonies that are being introduced, and they sound like this. This is actually one of my more favorite parts because this is like super unique. Also for the When the Party's Over track, if you listen really closely to the background noises, you can hear there's so many more like melodies and stuff going on in the back that I'm like, I need that too. You know, I need to bring in that ear candy as well. So this sound is actually from Arcade, and it's called Come to Peace from Distant Voices. First of all, Arcade is brilliant. I love the sounds in this. Super high quality. It almost is like, it's almost Nexus basically, or Splice, but just way better. You can put the sample in any key you want and it won't change the quality of your sample at all. And the amount of libraries Arcade has is incredible. So if you have the money for it, I'd say definitely get it. And then I also got this one. I don't know what that is. I don't know. I just took samples online. It just worked well. Then for the synths, same stuff. The same pads, nothing too new. I also have this in the break, which is actually literally what is in the original When the Party's Over track, but instead of actually stealing it, I actually recreated it myself, and I'll show you exactly how I did it. This is how it sounds like originally. I penned it all the way to the right. Let me just actually censor it. This is actually me. I'm just doing like something. And the only thing I added was a compressor, just squashing it. And this is what's doing the main thing. It's this Nectar 3 plugin. And I'm only using the pitch correction and a little bit of EQ and compression, but it's mainly the pitch correction which gives it this sound. It's almost a string at this point. And to make it more sound like the Billie Eilish take, basically, I added another reverb, which has a really big mix, but a really short decay. The decay is set to like 24 seconds. And this really adds like that Billie Eilish ear candy to it. If I mix it with this. Really awesome. Actually really happy with that sound. Then in the vocal group, it's the same stuff, the same ad-libs. There's this like new harmony that's being introduced. And I went into Little Altar Boy. I formatted it down. I did some EQing, Puke Child bit crusher. This is actually a pretty big bit crusher. And that's basically it. And then some like other like distortion stuff. So yeah, and then we have again this build up.
Quiet when I'm coming home and I'm on my own. Quiet when I'm coming home and I'm on my own. I could lie, say I like it like that, like it like that, like it like that. I could lie, say I like it like that, like it like that, like it like that. I could lie, say I like it like that, like it like that, like it like that.
Okay, so for this next build up, it's nothing too crazy actually. As a matter of fact, it's the same as the first build up. The only difference is it's being extended with 8 bars. So it's actually longer than the first build up. So now before we go to the Vocal Chop project, I will give the word to ThatBehavior right now, who's going to explain how they made the drop. And then we're going to go back into the Vocal Chop project so I can explain you how I did that part.
Yo, what up?
We are ThatBehavior.
Let's get into the drop of When the Party's Over. Alright, so this is the project. We only have the drop because Arcando has the break and we made the drop. Give them a listen.
Yeah.
Like it like that. Like it like
Yeah, so let's hop right into the drop. So let's start with the drums. The drums are actually very, very basic. It's just a snare, a kick, and
Another snare.
a snare fill. Yeah, and that's it. That's it. Nothing much going on right here. So yeah, we have the kick right here, which is an Louis Vuitton kick from the sample pack, but we added this sausage fattener and added a lot of color to it. And it sounds like this.
It's the most basic kick ever.
Yeah, it is.
But it has a nice attack though.
Right here, we have the snare, which is very punchy and very like, it has very much lows. Yeah, and we cut a little bit from the highs because otherwise it would be too harsh. So, yeah.
And we have that little snare
fill, yeah, and we have nothing on it, so it's just the snare fill, but we did it, yeah.
Oh.
We put a bit from the gain down.
Important. Nice.
Yeah, and that's it for the drums, basically.
Alright, let's get into the FX.
Yeah, so right here we have this vocal from Lunis, which is in the build-up, I guess. But we put it in the drop as well to add like this cool like ambience, like...
Reversed sound.
Yeah. What we did here is nothing special, again. So
Only sweep and other impact from Fabian Masur, Cashmere and Fabian Masur. Nothing too big. Give it more, I don't know, more attack, more room, more wide.
exactly. So, and right here we have this omnisphere sound.
Ooh, nasty.
Ooh, that's dope. So what we did here is we put an OTT on it. Just put the OTT on it and
Believe.
Yeah.
Just believe.
exactly, believe, because
It does something.
yeah. So we put the depth on like 100%. It's just
Just a feeling.
just like in it. We just put it in and just let it be. So
And cut the lows again.
oh yeah, and sidechain, and that's it
Yes.
again. So oh right here we
Wait, show them which sound it is from Omnisphere.
oh yeah, totally forgot. Sorry. So it's this sound. It's called Bendy Boys,
Bendy Boys.
and it's just as you can hear right here. The reverb, and we don't want that reverb going in further in the drop. And yeah, and right here we have this very cool breath.
Ooh.
It's giving this way. All right.
That's all?
So yeah, that's it. Oh,
Oh
right.
no, we have
yeah, right here at the end of the drop, we have this. It's again this sound from Louis Vuitton. Actually, Louis Vuitton did the whole drop. No, but
it's a ghost.
yeah. So that's it for the effects in the first drop.
Alright, let's get into the bass. The most important thing in the drop. I think it makes the whole drop, right? It's the
Yeah.
most important thing in a drop. It's actually one bass, one more saw sound, and then a pretty big distorted sound. The main bass is this one. A lot of glides in it, so it has that nice sound. It's actually just from Serum. What did you do on that?
So I just added a init sound and just added the noise right there, and go to the effects
Oh, yes.
and a distortion,
Yes.
but on 100%, and then it's adding this very crispy sound to
Yes.
it.
And we also had to cut, or not cut, we had to put the volume down of the mids and the highs, right?
Yeah,
That's why we did it with the audio effect rack and not with the normal Ableton EQ. We also just added a sidechain to it,
yeah,
and we had this nice, how do you tape stoppy sounds?
yeah. So yeah, what it does is it added this tape stop effect right here, but a very short one. And in the ending of the drop, it's way much longer than the first one. So it's more like a very long ending.
But the same plugin from Wave, so
Yeah. So, and the second bass right here,
it's not a bass, it's actually a saw.
so the second layer, yeah, sorry, is it's just a sound from Excellent Sound, a preset. and it's called Bacon Bits. And what it does, it added just some mids and some highs. So, and what we did here is we put an OTT on it, and that's it again, and a filter to filter together with the long tape stop. Yeah, so that's it, and a sidechain. And yeah, so that's it for this second layer. And then we have the last base layer, and it's called Bad Photocopy of the Supersaw. And it's an omnisphere sound, but it's very distorted. So we added this OTT again, and it does
The same
everything.
thing.
Yeah, the same thing. And we cut out the lows and added some highs. And again, a compressor for sidechaining. So that's basically it for the bass. Yeah, for all the bass layers.
Now we have the drop chords here, which are also layered.
The drop chords actually sounds very like quiet, but it's like adding this ambience background type thing.
Also a bit of energy.
Yeah, so it's not like too empty,
Yes.
and it sounds like this. And those are just basic init sounds. Right here, it's an analog BD syn and a acid wave, sorry. And yeah, nothing on the effects, so it's basically an init sound, which is playing a chord, so it gives like this chord type feeling. Yeah, and that's it, it's playing the whole drop. What's inside is an OTT, we cut the lows and a bit from the highs, and a sidechain. On the second layer is a preset from, I think it's Echo Soundswork Sphere, and it's called Big Orc. Yeah,
Orch.
And it sounds like this.
Even quieter, more quiet.
Yeah, and what we added is an OTT, and we actually cut a lot, but we wanted to add this like bit of string syn. So yeah, so that's it for it. And the last thing is a
Quick's brass.
yeah, a brass from Quicks, and again a OTT, EQ,
And a sidechain.
and a sidechain. Yeah, and it sounds like this.
What do we have there?
And this right here is just another sound. It's a lead from Cymatics Titan, and it's called this. So yeah, and it sounds like this.
Nice.
Yeah, and,
Also
and again,
arm.
yeah, and again, OTT, EQ, and sidechain, and
Yes.
that's it. So what we did for the second drop is actually just copy paste, but we changed some things, which are this right here. This is an ARP from
Cashmere.
Serum, and no, it's not Cashmere.
No.
It's also from Echo Soundsworks, and it's called Bella Synth, and it sounds like this. And again, OTT, EQ, and sidechain, and that's it. Yeah, that's it. But yeah, so
It works, so.
and what we did right here is we just added this bass. This bass notes we just put an octave higher because otherwise it sounds like this, like the first drop. But we put it an octave higher, so it sounds like this.
So much more energy.
Yeah, it sounds like
unbelievable.
the bass is glitching or something. But right here in the ending of the drop,
We wanted to spend a lot more time on the project, so we decided to add that unique ending thing on the drop.
yeah, so it sounds like this. Yeah, so what is inside? So right here we have this quick express, which is playing 2 octaves. The arp again. And right here is a serum synth, and it's from Echo Sounds Coda, and it sounds like this. Right here we have the auto pen, which is giving this stop effect. Without auto pen it sounds like this. Yeah, and again an OTT and a sidechain and a EQ. And right here where all the magic happens are the chords, and they sound like this. And it's again an OTT, compressor, sidechain, and a EQ. Again with this one. So this sound is a sound from, is it Cymatics? Yeah, Cymatics Future Bass, and it's called Butterfly 1, and it sounds like this. Yeah, and right here a Fabian Masur synth from the Elixir pack. I think it was actually the first one. So yeah, and it sounds like this.
Nice white noise.
Yeah, a lot of white noise, which is giving this full and distorted sound kinda. And right here we have this one. This is, oh yeah, these are the plug thing, which is just going down. Yeah, and inside of it is
Same
an
shit as
OTT, EQ, and a compressor. And the last thing right here.
The same arp,
Yeah.
same arp, just another sound.
Yeah, the same arp as we have up here.
Yes.
But this one is from Cymatics Titan, and it's called Arp Candy Bar. It sounds so cool because it's more like in the background.
Yes.
But
Because
also
of the reverb.
Yeah, and it sounds very, very cool detuned. And yeah, so that's it for this part.
And then we just end with a basic drum part.
And that's basically it for the drop background.
Well, that was it for drops. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you guys learned something. Don't forget to put OTT on everything.
And if you guys have any questions, let us know below. And yeah, also our Instagram and Facebook and Twitter, everything is linked below. So yeah, so
Bye.
See you guys soon. Bye.
Okay, so now we're back, and for this next part, I'm going to explain how I made the vocal chop in the drop of the When the Party's Over cover, and it sounds like this. This part actually took me a long time. We already had the vocal chop that we wanted to use, but we made it with the original Billie Eilish vocal. So we were like, damn, like how are we gonna replicate it as good as possible? So I think this is the original vocal we had. Which is being processed a lot with OTT, Xfer, serum effects, Camel Crusher, stuff like that. So then I made my own version of that, which sounds like this. So to create this stem, I made this. As you can see, there are like so many crossfades, there's so many cuts. It's actually a pretty big mess. but I really went close to what we originally wanted to do.
I see it there.
And also in the end, we have this.
I see it there.
So how I processed it was I used a compressor to squash it a lot. I used an OTT that's up to 57%, so it's a pretty big OTT. There's a channel EQ that's boosting a lot of the high end and cutting off the low end. There is a de-esser to compress those harsh sounds. I added a sidechain compressor, so every time the kick hits, it's being sidechained. I added a multiband compressor, again compressing the higher frequencies. Then I added a limiter and I added a reverb, the Valhalla Vintage Verb. And then for this next part, the only difference is I added a tremolo effect. So it's being automated and it goes panning from left to right, but from fast to slow. As you can see right here, the rate is being automated. So that's that first stem, and then we layer that with this one. Which is another acoustic version I found online, and I was just like, let me just take that and let me put it a little bit softer in the mix, adding the same processing as for the other vocal chops, and let me just layer it all together, and then you get something like this. Like, as long as you can mask it yet again with the original samples, you're all good to go. There was another, I think I also had this. Yeah. This is another stem that comes back in. This is like an acoustic version of Billie Eilish herself, which is singing this. So anyways, this was the tutorial for When the Party is Over. I hope this was useful. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe. Also check out ThatBehavior's channel, because they are also doing more tutorials in the future. If you do have any questions about this project, leave them down below in the comments and tag us, whether it's for me or for ThatBehavior, and we'll try to respond to all of the questions you have. Yet again, guys, this was the end of the video, and I'll catch you guys later with new music and with new videos as well. All right, peace.